in my eye!
There are lots of different types of toilets. Comfy toilets, uncomfy toilets, a different kind of uncomfy toilet. Ugh. And the other day, something happened that I will now show a dramatic reenactment of. Wait, why don't toilets need electricity? Okay, maybe that's not exactly how it happened, but surely I'm not the only one who has thought about this. In fact, the whole concept of plumbing not requiring electricity just boggles my mind. And when you ask someone how it works, they usually just respond with, "Oh, it's the water pressure." Ah, okay. What? Don't get me wrong, I understand how water pressure works, but the pressure must be pretty damn high in order for it to travel across the city and defy gravity up to my sink. So how come the water doesn't obliterate the meat from my bones whenever I wash my hands? Oh, my meat. So before we look at how a toilet works, let's figure out how the water gets there in the first place. The number one priority for all civilizations has always been having access to water. But even though having easy access to water is useful for crops, livestock, and for pumping into AI servers, if the ground is too unstable to build on, or if the area is vulnerable to potential invaders who want to steal the water, you might be better off setting up shop a little further away instead. However, once you find a good location, having access to water becomes an immediate problem that needs to be solved. Sire, the city's main water supply is too far away, and the donkey we've been using to fetch water for us looks like he's planning to switch career paths soon. What should we do? Well, damn. An ingenious solution, sire. I'll get our very best working on it immediately. Oh, okay. Wells and dams are both great options for getting easy access to water, but they both have their pros and their cons. Wells can be made anywhere, but the amount of water they provide depends on how much water has been absorbed into the ground. Whereas dams can automatically redirect water directly to a city through man-made canals, using this one simple trick. Ta-da! Gravity was the backbone of primitive plumbing, and by building canals at a slight decline, the water will flow wherever you want it to go. So, of the two options, the dam is definitely the better option overall. That was until humanity entered the magical era of waterborne POO illnesses. Up until this point, humanity hadn't really bothered with inventing good toilets, since there were typically more important things for them to be worrying about. Make toilet? So most of humanity had been limited to using dry toilets, of which the popular choices were either a bucket or a public latrine, which emptied into a cesspit that would need to be manually cleaned out by a poop ladder. These places also offered a sponge on a stick in place of toilet paper for you and all your buddies to share. So you can see the level of hygiene that was popular at the time. But with the introduction of flowing water in a city, people were suddenly able to deal with their waste more effectively than ever before. And when you combine the city's fresh water supply with the waste disposal method, the result is a colourful list of brand new diseases. And a lot of dead peasants. This is also why you hear about peasants drinking things like ale or cider so commonly. Because, let's be honest, if it weren't for the fact that avoiding the contaminated water was what was keeping the working class alive, there's no way that the upper classes would have let them make tasty drinks for themselves. I'm okay. This problem was a global mainstay for centuries, until the mid-1800s when most prominent cities finally conceded the necessary funds and implemented improved sewer systems. One of the last cities to follow suit was London, which didn't begin preparations for a new sewage system until
The Great Sink of 1858.
which was a heat wave that was so strong that the River Thames, which had previously been described as thick black sludge that smelt of death, had emitted such a miasma that it perforated the nostrils of the government officials so effectively that they were suddenly overwhelmed with the financial generosity needed to get the new sewer system up and running at record pace. With the sewer renovations taking place, this was as good a time as any to also look into improving the toilet situation. It's not that public latrines weren't fun, but the number of people who had fallen in and drowned wasn't zero. Also, it was believed that King Edmund II was killed by a Viking who attacked him from below by hiding in his cesspit. So if I pull that out, does that make me the new King of England? David, I know, I'm sorry. Despite now having improved sewer systems, the modern toilet was still far from being a desirable product, since it still had serious issues like potential for drowning, diseases from the communal poop sponge, and bum Vikings. That was until 1866, when one man invented a toilet that would change the world. But he didn't do it alone. Almost 300 years earlier, England was ruled by Queen Elizabeth I, and although she didn't have any children of her own, she did have 102 godsons. Among them was a man named John Harrington, who designed a toilet that featured a cistern filled with water that sat above the toilet bowl, that would then release the water and allow gravity to flush the waste away, all with a single pull of a chain. He didn't just design it though, he built it. In fact, he built two. He kept one for himself, and then he gave the other one as a gift to his godmother, and she loved it. The design was featured in a book that Harrington later published called The Metamorphosis of Ajax, and his flush toilet was ready to change the world. Except, the book also featured sections that heavily criticised the government, which they've famously not really been able to deal with in a very healthy way. So they blocked the distribution of the book and disregarded the merit of the design out of sheer spite. The Queen did keep her toilet though. It wasn't until 1775 when a Scottish watchmaker by the name of Alexander Cumming got his hands on the design that the next major step was taken. He invented something called an S-bend pipe that connected the waste pipe and the toilet bowl and would house a small amount of water that would act as a barrier to prevent the sewage smell from permeating through the bowl. This development was what paved the way for the real toilet MVP to make his appearance. In 1866, a budding young plumbing technician opened his first toilet showroom, and his name was Thomas Grapper. His toilets improved many of the design components of the modern toilet, including the S-bend pipe. But most notably, he invented the ball cock. Don't giggle at that. So anyway, the testicle penis is a float device that sits on top of the water in the cistern and blocks a water inlet valve. When the toilet is flushed, the water is released into the bowl and the scrot dick floats down, opening up the valve and allowing the cistern to refill and then stop automatically after each flush. His designs won him tons of awards, and Grapper's toilets were flying off the shelves. Additionally, since his product was so successful, his name became what's known as a proprietary eponym, which is the term for when a brand's product is so successful that the brand name becomes the generic term for the product, just like what happened with these products. Grapper was asked if his name becoming synonymous with toilet bothered him, but he just responded that it was good for business. So I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that he really left his skid mark on history. Primitive plumbing relied solely on gravity to build enough pressure to transport water. But through some cool tricks like funnels to aerate the water, siphons, water wheels, and steam pumps, they figured out how to also transport water uphill. The main drawback of this was that in order to let gravity do the heavy lifting, the water source always had to be at a higher altitude. Nowadays, since we don't rely on gravity as much, it means that although we don't technically need electricity to flush our toilets, it is still necessary, since the people at the Water Corporation use electrical pumps to accurately control the amount of water that's sent to your house, so that the water pressure is just low enough to not rip the meat from your bones once it reaches your tap. Oh, thank goodness. For all casual toilet enjoyers, the modern toilet has pretty much been perfected. They don't smell, they refill automatically, and since most of them are either made from porcelain or stainless steel, they're super durable and easy to clean. Still, that hasn't stopped scientists from experimenting with options other than the flush toilet, such as suction toilets on aeroplanes that use less water to save on weight, or freezing toilets for places where you can't connect water pipes, so the waste is frozen and then stored for disposing of later. And incendiary toilets that are aiming to recycle human waste as a new fuel source. While doing research for this video, I came across way more interesting information than I expected I would, so I had to cut a lot of it out. So I'm putting some extra facts in the description below if you want to give them a quick read. But yeah, toilets. Oh no, I keep forgetting that I'm lactose intolerant. Oh, fine.